Hi there, welcome to a deep focused analysis in understanding what it's like to shut out the world and what does it really mean to do that, both physically and mentally, explaining how it can happen, why it can happen, the symptoms and effects of it, and even the healthy option, and then the most common reaction, which is unhealthy. Then I'll be adding on later into this video explaining the importance and meaning behind the bubble, which is an effective coping method and strategy in healing for those that may just struggle daily in general. Even for people that may have PTSD, complex PTSD, OCD, and more, the bubble effect can help all of those people with those symptoms. So feel free to sit back, relax, listen on in, and I'll go from there. I just like to say, if you are interested in videos like this and you want to learn more about things such as PTSD, OCD symptoms and treatments, freeze response, childhood related stuff, you'll be able to find it all available top right corner where the eye symbol is up there. Click on the eye symbol, you get a drop down menu box with the playlist called Psychology, which will be available. One last thing I'd like to add on right now is just a little disclaimer. If at any point this video gets too heavy or it becomes triggering, you're more than welcome to pause the video, take a break, have a rest, get a drink, do whatever you need to do. If you need to take a step back and catch up watching this video on a different day, you're more than welcome to. You do whatever makes you feel most comfortable. Just feel free to maybe save the video to your watch later playlist so you don't forget about it, or save the psychology playlist on your channel page if you wish to. With that all being said, where do we start? First of all, in understanding these terms and words. So shutting out the world can be a psychological response, a trauma response, a self-defense mechanism, a form of survival when dealing with current ongoing stresses, whether that be daily life, chores, responsibilities, jobs, other people, other friends, strangers, any tension, any drama, which could flare up the body and mind, especially if it's already dealing with the past, a person with trauma from back then, an individual with PTSD, how certain triggers and memories and senses can cause either a wave of panic, cause a freeze, flight response, and struggling in the moment emotionally too. It can get very noisy and suffocating inside. Even a person with OCD, intrusive thoughts, obsessions, compulsions, rethinking, over-analysing, questioning constantly, replaying thoughts in a loop cycle, whether that be a simple encounter, a conversation with someone a few minutes ago. Anything can cause these flare-ups and it can get very tense within the head. And when dealing with a lot, and maybe even for a prolonged period, or if a person has had a busy day, the individual may want to shut everything out, the world, visually, auditory, and more. And by shutting the world out, that can also mean shutting out everyone. It's a trauma response, it's a defense response, a form of protecting oneself. It could be considered a form of a tactical retreat, retreating back to a safe place, retreating back to one's home or one's bedroom, shutting the door, locking the door, pulling the sheets over them. It can be both a physical action and a mental response. Disconnecting, shutting the world out, can also mean disassociating, not wanting to be in the presence of other people or a certain environment, pulling away from it. It can be an act of withdrawal. Now, I said there are two forms. the unhealthy one, which can be common, and then the healthy version. The unhealthy version of shutting out the world is where an individual will be by themselves and remove themselves from familiar faces, short term or long term, and even an environment. They isolate. It can be a little bit, quiet. And during that time of reflection or healing, whilst they're trying to shut out the noise or at least reduce it and all the stress around, they're not truly giving their form of proper healing. They're doing the best they can with what they have in the moment. But the reason why it's unhealthy, as in withdrawal and isolation, it stops some of the noise, but it also makes their internal struggles louder than ever because there are no distractions about. That it's just them in a room trying to relax. They don't see anyone. There's not as many reminders. There's not as much stress. There's less responsibility, especially like in a relationship or a friendship. By disconnecting, pulling away, you don't have to face those people. You don't have to face the questions. You don't have to answer to anybody. It's just you, yourself, and that's it. A person in that position, whilst they are more safer with themselves as a form of self-protection, they're now dealing with the dangers and the darkness within their mind, which could be louder than ever because they don't have a distraction anymore. They don't have the external noise around them in a busy working environment. So it creates a hypersensitivity and focus on the internal world, the internal struggles, rather than the external. And with them being by themselves, they may not have anyone to talk to or to share that weight. That's why it can be unhealthy. In the short term, it's a survival response. But then longer term, the body and mind may realize it's just them and their struggles. And they may be used to that, but in dealing with it and coping, that could still be rather challenging. And with the less distractions about visually and auditory, it really enhances the tone within. So what was felt before could feel worse now. And whilst external problems have been minimized, it's counterproductive, as in the internal problems have increased in volume, in magnitude. So it's a difficult position to be in, and it's like a double-edged sword. You perform one action to reduce one problem, but then a new problem is created with the new environment you're now in. So what would be a healthier version of shutting out the world? A means of disconnecting in the moment, but without disassociating. So one isn't numb. Because when a person is numb, that is a trauma response. It's also just a survival response. It means maybe reducing, eliminating negative feelings, but it also means eliminating positive feelings. You just don't feel much. So whilst in the moment it might be better than all the noise, you're not exactly gaining from it in a positive way either. Whereas a healthy way of shutting out the world is pulling away from an environment or people, doing your own thing, being in a comfortable environment, a familiar place, maybe even with familiar faces. Even that be just in the presence of one person. So you got someone to talk to and hang out with. Now granted, maybe not everyone has someone, and maybe not everyone wants to be around a person because of how they survive and respond. They have their own ways. Well then, if it's not down to the presence of someone, what can be controlled in a healthy way is the environment or an activity that they participate in. Instead of shutting out the whole world and staring at a blank wall and then the noise internally being louder. What could be done instead Shut out the world and do a jigsaw puzzle. Shut out the world, look at videos on YouTube. Shut out the world, play a video game. Shut out the world, draw on paper, paint a picture, paint one's nails, have a wash. Things like that, grounding effects, which, link to the person, what they like, what they enjoy, and what they can feel. Their senses being engaged and doing something in the moment as a distraction, but on one's own terms and choices. It still eliminates the outside noise. It removes the visual reminders and responsibilities in life, but it still allows the person with symptoms to engage in an activity that they're familiar with. It grounds them, it stabilizes them, it acts as a distraction, it calms the body, the mind, and more. That is a healthier way around it. Now, in a relationship or a friendship where there's distance or there are struggles, or to begin with, it's held at arm's length because maybe the one with the symptoms and more struggles could be dealing with forms of PTSD, complex PTSD, which in terms of trauma responses can lead to disassociating, numbing, feeling numb inside, not being able to be loving enough or feel capable of giving enough because they're just about coping themselves. How can that be fixed? Well, the bubble is where it comes into play and the significance behind it. But before I give examples, we need to understand what the meaning is behind the bubble. It's a term that I've created. It's like a metaphor. It's a symbolism. It's a microcosm representing an inner and external state of peace. Peace of mind, peace of surrounding, where an individual or more than one person can be present and still and be relaxed, calm, feel safe and secure, fulfilling those desires which a person may have always wanted and more, but they felt they could never get to that state or place because they never had a chance, a choice, or they didn't have the thought of it to begin with. In addition, the environments that they may have been in, it just wasn't possible. So finding a bubble, creating a bubble is what can bring about a sense of familiarity. It's like a safe place, a safe room, whether that be physically or mentally in the mind, or even both. It can target the symptoms, the flare-ups and the struggles and ease them passively and gently. And when paired with a relationship, that can improve relationships if there's any problems, if there's a feeling of disconnect, if it feels like it's parting ways, becoming a little distant, the bubble can fix it, but slowly. It's not about fixing a person's PTSD, complex PTSD, OCD, not that literally, but it's a way of healing from it and coping and managing the symptoms better and knowing what to do when things get too difficult, when things get too noisy. So the bubble is something that you or another person can create, an environment and a place where you can be who you want to be and do what you want to do without the fear of consequences, without the fear of responsibilities externally and all the pressures that can come with it. It's like a timeout, a break time, and it could happen anywhere, any place, any time when accessible. So the bubble can enhance and complement going down the correct pathway when shutting out the world. Shutting out the world can be a natural self-defense mechanism. The bubble can be an action created and put in place to direct the energy and emotions the right way to benefit the person themselves. The importance of the bubble is that it can target the PTSD, the complex PTSD, the OCD flare-ups, like with OCD and PTSD, intrusive thoughts and memories, which can come and go, and at times can be unexpected. Moments where a person is having a panic attack and struggling to cope, not knowing what to do or where to go. The bubble can reduce it all and guide a person onto the right pathway and give them the space that they need physically and mentally. Now, the types of bubbles can apply solo and including more than one person. It could apply physically based on location. Working out what makes a person at peace, what an individual finds calming and relaxing. If that be surrounded by nature, finding a local walk, finding a woodland and spending some time there, sitting, standing, breathing slowly, hearing the sound of the trees, the leaves blowing, listening in, looking at the birds flying about. If it be near a river or a lake or an ocean, near a shoreline or a skyline, spending some time there, looking at the water, which can be hypnotizing in a way, the gentle crashes of waves which overlap with one another and collide against the walls and the rocks and stones. Finding a place which can be visually calming and satisfying, and even the auditory. Allowing the body and mind, the senses within, to tap into that specific environment physically. Those physical senses being stimulated in a controlled, natural, calming way can bring about a form of peace. It can create a grounding effect, being in tune with reality and what's present. It can especially help during a panic attack or a low episode, a moment of disassociation or freezing, gently being exposed to an environment which they're familiar with or once was, to bring them back, to wake them up slowly, to thaw them out. And I say them because this could apply to a person that you know of that is struggling, because not everyone may be able to reach or create a bubble if they're struggling in the moment. It might require the support and help from a familiar face, which can guide them or remind them to a place where they could be. So like how I said, with panic attacks and OCD, if you know someone that is struggling in the moment, you sense it visually, physically, emotionally. If they're able and give you a prompt, non-verbal communication, or a physical touch, a squeeze of a hand, that could be need time out, a tactical retreat. You take them away from that busy, triggering environment or place, and you go elsewhere where it's a little bit quieter. And that new location you relocate to is your ground zero, your bubble, where you've created it. It's now your place. It's now your moment to spend with that person, or for them to spend that time by themselves to self-reflect, to calm down, but you can still be present or at a slight distance just to be there for them in case they need it. So it just creates the grounding effect, the feeling of peace and quiet and calmness, and it's what's being created by oneself or the other person. So it creates a level of positivity, knowing it can be made and it's portable. It's not stuck or glued to just one location, one place or one person. It's mobile. It can be done anywhere. Even if a person was mobile themselves in the activities, the responsibilities or the jobs that they did or have, if they're mobile on the go, if a bubble can be mobile and on the go, it means wherever they travel to, that form of peace, that backup plan, that emergency blanket will follow them in parallel. So it never strays and it's never lost. It's always there and welcome, with or without the presence of another person. That's what creates that calming effect of reassurance. If it was such a thing where, like with medication specifically, that you needed to collect it on an interval, you needed to call in for it, or even you had to pay for it, it creates a barrier and a wall. In order to get it, you've got to jump through the hoops to achieve. But with a bubble, a calming, natural self practice, it can follow you no matter where. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to reach out or travel about. It can be in the moment, and whenever it's needed, it can be applied, providing the understanding and the knowledge is behind it. Understanding the backstory behind a bubble is a layer of protection encasing something, themselves, what they have with them, and even another person. The bubble is like an invisible barrier and a protective shield, shielding the darkness, pushing it back, creating a space which is precious and sacred and can't be consumed by darkness outside and can't be consumed by their own demons. It's a time where they get to be who they want to be without all the fear or worry. And if they are friends with someone, they may be in a relationship with an individual, but the arm's length is which creates the distance physically and emotionally. And they may be scared that if they open up too much, they show their struggles, their real self, they say how they really think and feel, they may fear it will push the other person away and they'll lose them. And it may trigger memories of like the past where they lost other people, but in different circumstances. By holding someone at arm's length, it remains a constant. Even though it might not go any further in that moment, it's constant and it's stable and predictable. But this is the thing. Creating a bubble, a shield, a protective layer encased around one person or more, that can be a constant, as in knowing it can be created any place, anywhere, anytime, and it can be just as effective no matter where. In addition, creating a space where you don't have to think about problems, you don't have to talk about struggles or illnesses or health-related problems or mental health. You create a space where a person can be themselves without all of the limitations, without all of those reminders and voices. It's a time and a place where they can be normal, act normal, feel normal, become normal, and maybe even get to share that with another person without the baggage and weight. So, like when people go on holiday to have a break, to relax, to relocate, where it's like having a miniature short holiday whenever and wherever, but in a smaller way. And by doing it in a smaller way, with the bubble being handmade, handcrafted, and it naturally done, whilst it's small scale, the smaller things within life can be appreciated and valued more. The smaller things which have a greater impact and effect are more valued and more memorable. The more memorable it is, the more likely the action, the behaviour and response will be performed. And with the senses of familiarity, the more encouraged a person would be to go down that route and pathway. And with it being able to ease and heal forms of PTSD, complex PTSD flare-ups, it means it can expand in different ways and overlap with one another in symptoms if a person has one or more, etc. So the physical state, as in location, can create and set the tone for the bubble, whether that be a park, a woodland, a river, a fountain, whether it be a quiet place in a building, whether it be a park, whether it be something simple as a person's own bedroom or a kitchen, anywhere where there's a level of silence and it's just oneself or the person and a partner, such as in a relationship, where they can focus on themselves or they can focus on one another and make the most of it and enjoy it. And that can happen as often as it's needed. It can be daily and without the fear of being a burden, without the fear of it feeling like a chore. That's all eliminated. It's a natural response to natural needs and wants in life, and it may be reciprocated both ways. That's what can bridge that gap and that distance. It's what can remove that isolation, because of being engaged in something meaningful. It adds a layer of protection from the outside world, and then adds a level of soothing to the ongoing storm within, in her, in the heart, and wherever else, calming the nervous system. So, beside location, other forms of physicalness, and the bubble could be sensory touch based, gently rubbing or touching cotton, fabric, satin, gently playing or grasping sand in the hand, touching, using your feet, your hands on the beach or where there's sand, being grounded by nature, feeling it, that deep nervous system, body, and deep tissue connection with the ground, gravity on the base, feeling it all the way through. That can create a calming visual and sensory space, a bubble, a moment of relaxation. As well, such as in a relationship, forms of physical bubbles could be coming together, cuddling, hugging, holding one another, keeping each one secure, tight, warm, and stable, cradling, slow rocking. It's what creates that deep connection between two people. And if there's a time where there's a disconnect or there's a level of distance, if two people can come a little bit closer and find time in the day to slow things down in one's own personal lives and focus on one another and one another's needs, it can create a better understanding and a deeper connection between two people, whether that be a friendship or a relationship with forms of intimacy. If there's any intimacy issues, if there's any arm's length, the bubble can bring two people together closer, whether that be as a form of communication or more powerfully, non-verbal communication and just touch-based communication. Being together in silence and being comfortable together in silence. Just breathing gently, close together. The sound and feeling of touch and hair brushing on the shoulder of the other person. The gentle rhythmic beat of one's heart pressing against the other person's. The gentle thudding of a pulse as wrists brush against one another and hands interlock. Slowly breathing together, almost at the same pace, connecting as one. Feeling, seeing, experiencing the same thing in the moment, bringing each other mentally and physically closer than ever. And whether that be for two people that both have their own troubles and struggles, or even if it's just one person in the relationship, is what brings together that closeness. And as said, that bubble in the moment can be a protection away from the illnesses, the health issues and struggles. So both people get to be normal, feel normal, and just breathe and relax for once in life, without the cold disconnect as what may have been done in the past as a temporary solution to a problem. This can be more permanent and in place longer term and more healthy just in general. Now, beside the physical aspect, the mental bubble can be done as a means of role play. Let's just say there's a situation where there is total distance, literal distance, arm's length or not. If you live far away from one another, you communicate online or digitally through a screen, whether that be in the moment, short term or long term, for whatever reason that might be. Whether it's the beginning of a relationship and it started online, whether it be because one person's gone on holiday or had to visit friends, parents, wherever, and there's a moment where there's a flare up, there's a struggle, there's a flashback, there's an intrusive thought, there's a night terror, and one person or the other is struggling with the symptoms. What do you do when your bubble, your person who you spend that time with, is not physically there, if that physical bubble can't be attained and made in the moment, then what happens then? Is that it? Game over? Isn't it supposed to be predictable and certain and create a level of reassurance? Well, yeah, but this is the thing. You don't just have to create a physical bubble, you can create a mental bubble, a mental space within here by still doing certain physical actions like a hobby, drawing, watching a film, listening to music, watching a YouTube video, playing a video game, putting the time and energy into that and using the mental mind to put all the focus into whatever that's being done. The mental bubble can create a mental psychological loop, as in feeling, experiencing, and talking it through as a means of introspection, as in, what are you doing? What does it look like? How does it sound? How does it feel? And is it fun? If you're playing a video game, what game are you playing? What does it visually look like? What type of game is it? And what's going on in the moment? Is it chaotic? Is it funny? Is it random? Are you performing? How is it solo? Is it a team-based game? Is it a puzzle? How do I complete this puzzle? What do I do next? And getting really engaged within it. So, or reading a book. Reading a book, putting oneself in the shoes of that character within that story. Just reading it slow, breathing gently, and creating that mental space from any physical symptoms, creating that mental space of peace and that energy and excess energy put into that one solo activity. So that's what can be done when there's the distance of the physical familiarity. However, it's not over. It can be done as a form of mental role play, as a means of creating a digital bubble. And that can be just as effective, if not more, because a digital bubble can require a little bit more energy and focus to make it work. But when it's done, it's much more rewarding and it can still have the grounding effects. So if you're in a relationship or the early beginnings of one, and you're texting through the screen, or if able, possible, you could be on a call, or you bridge the gap, you negotiate in between to get the best of both worlds, so both people feel comfortable. You send voice messages, voice notes. It's like in between both. And what do you actually do? Well, you can recreate, or you can simply create the physical wishes, hopes, and dreams, what you would wish to be in and wish to do. A scenario, a moment, a potential milestone, a goal in the future, an activity that could be done. It's like suggesting to the other half what I would like, what would be good for us, what we should do. Imagine if we did that. Imagine if this happened. Setting a tone, a form of storytelling, creating that idea and that space, allowing both minds to manifest and generate what it could be, creating those mental images of what it could be like, and then engaging with it, not physically, but mentally through role play, talking it through. For example, if one individual said, I would love to be in a park, a quiet park, maybe cloudy, with somewhat heavy rainfall, but to be in the presence of another person and to be close with them, whether that be an umbrella or using a coat as a means of protection, and resting, sleeping, whatever it may be, closer on the other half. That can be a grounding effect. It can be a symbolism of safety and peace. Being able to be in a location where it's quiet, there's not much noise externally, but the noise that is present is the noise of familiarity and a noise which the other half likes, or both people. The noise of rain can be a symbolism for drowning out the internal storm inside a person's mind. The loud, semantic rainfall and the pitter-patter of it can be a soothing, relaxing tone, which can also add as a distraction from the internal chaos that's going on inside. Paired with the physical, mental possibilities of leaning or resting onto someone or using the coat as protection from the rain creates a paradoxical space, as in a person loves the rain, but they love the other person more as a means of protection from it, while still being reminded of the sound and the sensation it is upon the skin, the hands, the legs, the knees. It creates two opposites in one place, but can be both enjoyed at the same time. And we're being in the presence of the other half, the significant other. They themselves have that grounding effect of feeling the person's head resting on their chest, or feeling the arms gently wrapped around the shoulders, neck, or waist. It creates that infinity connection, being connected physically and having that reassurance and stability that they are present and so are you, and no one's letting go. And visually enjoying the moment, and even just focusing on one another whilst the rain, the storms are going on about. That's the uniqueness of a bubble. You can be in an environment, a place, more so physically, where there could be a lot of noise, there could be a lot of chaos, there could be a lot of arguments with other people. Yet you shut it all out. You shut the world out together, whether you be in a peaceful place or not, and then you just focus on what's important in the moment. You focus on them, and they may focus on you, such as with eye contact or touch, gently breathing, and everything else that's around that could be a trouble, a threat, a trigger, now becomes irrelevant and not as important, because what's more important is that you've got them and they've got you, and you go from there. You regroup, you recharge together, and you heal, or you cope in the moment. So that's how powerful it can be. And like with being in a park and rainfall, rain can be cold, it can make you get wet, obviously, and it can be heavy, it could flood, it could create obstacles and barriers. But in that moment, it doesn't matter how bad the weather is, because you've got the warmth and they have the warmth of each other. So both can coexist at the same time and be powerful in their own ways, but still bring peace and positivity in alternative ways. And as said, if it can't be done in the moment because of distance, because it's early on in a relationship, just the consideration, the thoughts, the dreams, and the hopes is what can bring people together and have that feeling of being a team and on the same path moving forwards in life, to perform, to achieve a simple action, to get somewhere and then expand on it. Creating a bubble can be done in an intimate way, in a calming way, and combinations in between. The role play aspect is what bridges the digital gap between a relationship, or in some circumstances, a friendship. Talking about plans for the future can be set as a tone of a bubble. Creating a bubble which masks future plans can reduce any anxiety, any performance anxiety, and eliminate any social pressures. If a person dealing with symptoms such as PTSD, complex PTSD, who may have been in a bad relationship in the past or more, and they reached certain milestones and they still got hurt, to meet a new partner and to go through those milestones all over again, it's like for them reliving it all over again. Been here, done that before, got burnt by the fire. It may be with a different person, but for them, it can feel all too familiar. That's what can create that cautiousness. It can create that arm's length. It can create that hesitation. It's not a lack of love or a lack of respect. It's a means of coping and surviving. So by creating a bubble by implementing a future plan, a future milestone incorporated into the bubble, as in, this is what could happen someday. No given time, no given date, no deadline. Because a deadline to a person with symptoms or trauma can feel like the end of the world, can feel like added pressure and tension to perform on that day, counting it down and overthinking it. Just by simply suggesting it as a casual idea, it creates a calming space for them to consider and maybe appreciate. I mean, other examples could be a bubble with a workspace. If you have a business, if you work together, or that was to be considered. Work in general and certain environments can be stressful, triggering, and tiring and draining. If by some chance, with what you do, with what they do, you could bridge that gap and connect together as a power couple, a power team, doing the same job role, or doing separate things but being closer in proximity, it can create an internal bubble. It can create an internal monologue and the possibilities of the future without the demands and deadline. Creating these suggestions and places through role play can link on with almost putting yourself in that position. Whilst it's not happened yet, you pretend. It's like acting, it's like drama class. You put yourself in that position as if it's happening right now, but through the screen digitally, and they do too. And you talk as you would, and you say what you would do, but then you word it as if it's in the moment and it's actually happening. Like a hug, a touch, a whisper in the air, performing a certain action, a task, messing about, splashing water in the other person's face, pranking, anything that it could be, but doing it in the moment. That's what role play is. Externally, it can be considered as unusual or strange, and other times it's a form of abstract art. But as a means of coping, healing, and dealing with stress and tension, role play can be soothing. In some ways, bridging that gap on a solo basis when there's distance, you can do role play through video games. You load up a certain video game, or there's a certain online game which has a server where it actually has roles and positions in that game which you can play out and act on. So it gives you a purpose in that moment in a digital world and a landscape. And that can be a grounding, distracting effect. Whether it be that, or if it be through a private text conversation with someone you're close to, familiar with. So there is that. Of course, if you're a person that knows of someone that is dealing with symptoms, struggles with intimacy, or struggles with hyper-vigilance and very alert and cautious and could be scared at times and scared with their own thoughts and feelings, when it comes to role play under the correct circumstances, it needs to be done carefully, as in eased in slowly, not rushing on in, not typing in words, jumping onto the person to hold them, hug them tight. That could be overwhelming and an invasion of one's privacy and boundaries. You've got to gauge it and understand who they are as a person, their likes, their dislikes, their boundaries, and what's too much. So it could be something gentle as, imagine being in a park. Imagine simply walking side by side, whether that be holding hands or just simply walking. Seeing what's around, looking at the clear blue sky or the grey sky. Hearing the wind building up, the need to seek warmth or comfort. And they could possibly suggest, let's sit down. Let's breathe slowly. Let me rest my head upon your shoulder. And then the other person could say, let me slowly comb my fingers through your hair. That can create a non-physical but a mental feeling of what could be done. And mental role play can still stimulate the inner mind and body, whether that be as a form of intimacy, whether that be a form of melting, a form of relaxation, a gentleness behind it. It can still be felt through the screen, and that's what makes it more powerful. If a connection, a group of people, a friendship, a relationship, if they can touch upon a form of role play, a form of a digital bubble where it creates a shield from all the darkness around. It gives a moment to breathe, feel normal and be normal and hang out together. When that is done digitally and those feelings are still met in a positive fashion, that's what creates a stronger bond. If people can connect, if a person or people can feel at ease through simple actions, non-invasive ways, then just imagine what it could be like in real life on a physical basis, a physical bubble. It's about working with the smallest amounts, doing the smallest amount and benefiting the most from it, getting a touch, a feel for it. So that mental aspect of a bubble, a digital one, can be achieved and can help relationships and strengthen them as well. Now, in terms of initiating it, as we said about triggers and boundaries, whether it be in person or if it be online, how would you initiate the bubble? As in creating it or returning back? Because when it's created or put in place, with it being mobile, it can occur any place, any time, but it can be created or recreated and malleable. On one day, you might be in a park so you can get together and hang out. Another day, you might be in a restaurant or a coffee place in a slightly quiet area in the room with ambient lighting. But then on a different day, you could be in a busy area where it's a bit harder to find a beach. It's impossible to find a woodland. It's impossible to find any water sources. You're around a lot of noise and people. But for example, if you were together or hanging out or you decided to meet up in an environment where it feels like it's impossible to find a bubble, you use your thoughts, your imagination and what you think of one another, and you create your own in the moment, whether that be role play again, whether it be just talking and chatting about something and then creating a story out of it. It doesn't have to be real. It could be made up using one's own imagination, whether it be just simply, this is an alternative way, let's put it like that. If one person or both had long hair, maybe preferably one of the halves had long hair and the other person did not, by simply resting each other's foreheads or bridges of nose close together, leaning slightly inwards, by them throwing their long hair over the other person's head or covering the ears, that can create a grounding effect. And it feels like you're encased, physically encased with a shield and a bubble, their hair, something you're familiar with, something you can be intimate with and close to. No one else can see you, you can't see them. You're focusing on one another. The equivalent of being in a park and the other person under one's coat, away from it, shielded by everything about. That is how it can be applied. It can be physical, it can be mental, it can just be based on eye contact. Another way, and it is also paired with PTSD and panic attacks. If the person you knew of who was struggling with breathing or they were looking all over the place and they didn't know what to focus on in the moment, by focusing on one thing and energy, it can help regulate the body. So if there was noise that was triggering or it was noise that was just too loud, what one person could do is gently place, providing there is, consent, to place your hands, your palms over the ears of the other person like that. That is like a physical act of shutting out the world, allowing them to shut it out if they were unable to in the moment, like if they froze, if they clammed up. Gently, hands over the ears, so it kind of drowns out some of the noise, and even just the action itself shows a level of care and consideration, and that can be enough to create a grounding effect and melt them, pierce through their shield, their exterior, and it can be felt within. By eliminating certain senses, it helps them calm and settle. By eliminating certain triggers, it helps them focus on more so one thing and a healthy factor, such as oneself. Cover the ears, eliminate the noise and the sound around. Gently pull their face and head so they're facing you, eye contact, form of familiarity. It's trying to say, hey, You see all that around you and you hear it all, forget about it. It's not important. What's important is us in the moment, creating that connection, but doing it very subtle and very gently and slow to help ease them. Now, the way I'm describing it could be along the lines of when a person is really struggling. But even if someone wasn't struggling, these methods can still be applied and maybe even easier to do and even more effective. I'm just trying to give a general idea behind it all. Now, if another way, a prompt, non-verbal, that could be a squeeze of a hand, a finger, a tapping on the wrist to say, it's now time to create that bubble, or red flag, warning, need some time out, and then it can be initiated in that way, pulling one another aside, focusing in on a different location, doing a different activity, parting ways with certain people about. Now, in terms of all of this, the importance behind it, if a person was frozen or you couldn't physically do the prompt at a close range because there was distance, there was a barrier, it was crowded, and wasn't able to think of something, you could use code words and code language. And you might be wondering, what does that exactly mean? So if the bubble needed to be created, the safe space, that metaphor, you could suggest it to them, but with a certain word which they're safe with, familiar with, and only they know. That's what can create the exclusivity between one another as a friendship or a relationship. The room could be crowded full of people, and then you simply whisper into the person's ear, like, what could be a code word? Are you ready for the bubble bath? Not literally, but it's just a term used to, do you want to get away from all this and spend some time together, or just spend time in silence and look at the sky, take some time out, cool off, have a break. Or if they wanted to be alone but they didn't know what to do, you could go up to them and whisper and saying something like bubble time, strawberry bubble, something like that, which may have been suggested in the past, or you both agreed upon a safe word. A safe word where when things get too much, you initiate the word, things stop or things change for the better. Break time, a moment to reflect, to recharge, to calm down, to settle, with or without the other person, with boundaries in place. And with those boundaries, it can build respect. And with listening and learning to those prompts, those verbal forms of communication, those verbal cues, it creates a level of closeness. By one person listening to the other when they say that word, it shows that they care, it shows that they consider, it shows when they know when to stop and when not to. It creates trust. And sometimes people with PTSD, trauma from the past, can have trust issues because of how they've been treated and what's been taken from them. They've not been respected, they've not been treated the right way. So if they can be now, and something brand new can be put in place, verbal cues, prompts, and the bubble effect, these methods likely didn't exist before. The person with the symptoms probably has never done or thought of this before. And the reason why that's so powerful is it's something that can never be taken away or tainted by the darkness. That their own past, their own demons, they may feel like they can't move on from the past and they're held back. But what they can't be held back by, or what can't be attacked, is experiencing and doing new things which have never been done before. What's never been done before can't be compared to the past. So anything dark from back then, including a previous partner or ex, they can't compare to what's going on in the moment. As for individuals in treatment, it creates that separation and that isolation for the right reasons, and further reinforces as a microcosm the whole aspect of a bubble, shielding oneself or more than one person from everything about, and having that time to feel normal without comparing, without contrasting, without anything taking over. So to double down on that, the verbal cue could be, and I'll give you the example. Is it time for the strawberry bubble? Should we initiate the strawberry bubble? Other people about would be like, what? But that one person, they will know. They will simply know. And this is the thing. We talk about that mental communication, but also that verbal communication. A strawberry bubble such as this. Okay? As you can see, it's a strawberry. Decent size one. Nice and red with all the seeds and the dots on it. What some of you may notice or realize is this strawberry as like a symbolism for the bubble has actually been in my videos for the last few months in the background. For some people, you would have seen this in the background over there on the table there, or the table there. This was resting in the background when I was covering more so the Rebecca Zahow true crime case, because that's what I do on my channel, or I've been covering other mysteries. At times, on and off, this strawberry has been kind of like settling and resting in the background. And this is what I'm saying. Long term, it's in place. There is a plan, and there has always been one. But the strawberry bubble does exist, can exist, and it will never die. And it's portable and mobile. So this, that's been in place for some time, is the equivalent of other words and code words which other people and other groups could have and use with one another to initiate that. When the storm is heavy, when the chaos is loud, you say that one word or that code name, and then it leads to that action, mentally or physically being performed to shield, protect, to heal, regenerate. And as well, as much as the code name and word is important as a symbolism for the symbolism of the bubble, it's important the backstory, right? To create that grounding effect of familiarity, especially with people that may disassociate or disconnect, a word may not be enough to trigger the action of creating that safe place. So whether it be a verbal cue, a physical cue, a sensory sound reminder, a feeling, a touch, a story, a quote behind that code word, that can add. The greater the depth and level and storytelling, the more meaning and purpose it has and the more memorable it can be. Just like when you've got a good book and a person reads through it, they're more likely to remember it, the characters, the plot and the outcome. If you've got a bad book and it doesn't have much meaning or sense and it's a bit muddled, the person may not value it the same way and neglect or forget it. So the more meaning behind it, the more memorable it is. And the more memorable it is, the more likely the action will be performed. So once again, giving the example, when you're introducing it with the other person and you say, as example, the code word, is it time for the strawberry bubble? The strawberry bubble as a symbolism, but what does a strawberry itself represent? Just in general. A strawberry can represent the colour, red and bright, vibrant by characteristics inside and out. It shows internally there is a level of light and brightness. It's juicy inside, not dry. There's never a dry, dull moment with a strawberry. But the outer texture can be soft and squishy, just like the inside, realigning with a person at heart, that their heart inside is soft and big, just like this strawberry. And with the vibrancy and how it can illuminate the darkness within, it shows that even when a person's internal storm and chaos takes over, and even if there is a deep freeze or some kind of clamming up, that the strawberry itself as a symbol, despite all the darkness, never loses its sense or purpose deep within and even on the outside. The outside layer may be of a certain texture and feel, but then on the inside, there's even more depth behind it. This can be a shield and outer coating, but when you cut in deep, there is more at play, more purpose, and more positivity. That a strawberry itself can be very precious and valuable, as in if you have a crop and there's a drought or a storm and one stands out from them all, you value it. But this, even as a means of fruit, the fruit of labours and the work done behind it within the shadows to serve the light, that eventually it does lead to progression, right? That a strawberry like this, regardless of whether it's big or small, whether it feels big or small itself, that the impact that it can have in the presence of someone else can be greater even when they themselves least expect it. The strawberry bubble. A bubble is always there and always welcome for a person to return back to it. It never goes, it never leaves. So if a person feels like they've lost themselves, or an individual feels like they can't come back, things are broken within themselves, within someone, a disconnect, a breakdown in communication, it feels like there's an intense form of guilt or shame, it's okay. But the strawberry itself, the strawberry doesn't demand or need an apology. The bubble itself doesn't need apologizing or confessing. All it requires is a form of communication and the presence of one or two or more people within it to be able to heal, to be able to just simply breathe and be in touch. So as the strawberry bubble remains present and open, if anyone falls astray, falls away, feels like they're sinking, this is still here as a constant reminder that it's not too late. So, that story, you could apply your own to your own bubble, a different type of bubble, a space with a symbolism, a description behind it, and then you initiate it with another person, and then it can click, and then they can disconnect. They can shut the world out from others and then focus on you or focus on themselves. That's why it's important. Shutting out the world can be already a defensive response within a person, but it may not always be done for the healthier reasons. This alternative can make it more healthy, more validating, and just with more purpose. So, whilst this video was a little bit shorter, I managed to explain everything. I hope this video does help in some way, and whether it be for one person or if it's someone that you know of, maybe it can be implemented at some point with a steady pace and tone. It's always important to focus in on the signs and factors of familiarity: face, touch, voice, tone of voice, pacing, familiar language. The more familiar they are with it, the more calm and at peace they can be. Because like with OCD, when dealing with routines and changes and new environments and people, it can be overwhelming. But when creating a sense of routine and predictability, that can help ease the mind. A bubble can just be that itself. So with taking that all in mind, it'd be appreciated if you consider hitting the thumbs up, the like button, and sharing the video. And if you're on mobile or tablet device, feel free to hit the hype button down below across from the comment section where the star is. The reason being is so this video can get as much awareness as possible, so then it can reach more people and maybe assist or help more people. So, with that all being said, my name's White Ref. Thanks for watching. Goodbye and good night for now.